Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. Bring it!
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right.
The right that someone has. All our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you disrespected the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Pleasant Monday evening to you. We're coming from the Promenade Gardens, and as you can see, the background is the luscious green of Guyana. Everyone in the entire world, without exception, is talking about what happened in Venezuela. The American military action in Venezuela. The world woke up Monday morning, today, to find out that 32 Cuban security officers lost their lives in the military operation in Venezuela. So we're going to discuss the military scenario. There's so many dimensions to discuss about it, but one thing needs to be said, and then we go into the complexity of the Guyanese mind, how Guyanese feel about this thing. Now remember, we are no friend of Maduro, so he's gone and we should be glad. But there are bigger issues involved. One, we and the world were against an invasion of Guyana. You do not invade countries, you do not take military action against a country. That international law, since the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, protected countries from that. So, by any academic principle, you can't accept might is right in the world. But secondly, Maduro was trying to do to us in Guyana what the Americans did in Venezuela. We can't have any sympathies for that man because of the fear of invasion. And secondly, our 5 military officers that lost their lives, they were going to speak to the troops and examine resources on the frontier with Venezuela because this country felt a Venezuelan invasion was imminent. So why should we care, even in the most infinitesimal way, about what happened to him? He's not there. So the threat of invading Guyana is not gone. We don't know what the opposition will do. But Maduro, which wanted to invade Guyana, is no longer there. So those are those two issues. But the third issue has come up this morning. How did 32 Cuban security officers lost their life? It could not be in the firefight outside Maduro's safe home. The Americans bombed a number of military installations before they snatched Maduro. Is it possible that the Cubans lost their lives at those military bases? It could not be in the firefight where Marines went into a building and 32 Cuban personnel lost their life in a firefight and no Americans. No, that only happened in a Sylvester Stallone movie. That doesn't happen in real life. You can't have a set of Marines going into a building, to enter the building to take out the president, and 32 men in a firefight lost their lives, and there were no American casualties. I'd like to hear what people have to say about that. But that is my take before Leonard Craig comes in. I cannot have any sympathy for Maduro. I don't know why this man wanted to invade Guyana. We are a country of 800,000. We have no military hardware to invade another country. What went through his psychotic head? Why you unpopular in your country? You're facing terrible sanctions. Why you just want to invade Guyana? Of course, the academics will have to provide an answer. He felt that if he had invaded Guyana with the military, there would have been a groundswell of support for him. So the invasion of Guyana was to prop him up.
Okay.
I will go over now to
Yeah.
Go ahead.
9 out of 10 times, military invasion is for local legitimacy, right? You look at all the wars, all the invasions that were ever fought. Some of them are on principle, but 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times, it's for local legitimacy. And Trump invaded Venezuela probably for the same reason Venezuela wanted to invade Guyana. And it's for Trump's local legitimacy, regardless of right or wrong or breach of international principle. Americans are fascinated by guns and bombs. It's in their national anthem. And
Sure, is that in the national psyche?
and probably in their psyche as well, that they're fascinated by that. So, right or wrong, the greater proportion of Americans will either be silent or support America showing aggression on the international scene. The few people who will oppose that, they are opposing it for political reasons. And it's the same reason why Maduro wanted to invade Guyana. That he believes, because everybody have their local pride. If Guyana goes into Suriname, right or wrong, we're going to sort out the wrong soon. But we would like to know that our soldiers give them a good whooping. You feel patriotic, you feel strong. But then you can discuss what was wrong about it afterwards. But you just want to know. And I think that would have been the effect with people in Venezuela, whether they supported the invasion of Guyana or not. They would first want to know that, hey, if you're going in to win, and you're going in to wreak havoc. And not only that, in the national psyche of the Venezuelans, that Essequibo is owned by the country, by Venezuela. And you come into Guyana and you win something, then it could make Maduro popular again in Venezuela. So part of it is local legitimacy. And towards the back end of the program, I'll talk a little more about American legitimacy and what is coming for Trump that caused Trump to move so swiftly. But I want to pivot quickly to our own local setup. I think I look at all or most of the opposition statement, and a lot of it have fear-mongering in it. That we are going to have a deluge of Venezuelans coming to Guyana and all of that. I'm not saying we shouldn't prepare, but we don't need to fear-monger around it. That suddenly overnight, tomorrow, this afternoon, tonight, you're going to see a whole set of people breaking the borders to come into Guyana. That is fear-mongering, and I believe that some of the people or the leadership of the opposition, these people are not very smart. They're really not very smart.
So they couldn't be their last elections.
Right? And I don't think they think deep enough about, a lot of things that they mouth off about. And Guyanese need not be fearful. I think the president has announced, the president has met with all the division of the security forces, border, defense has been shored up, immigration is on alert, and I think Guyana is more or less positioned and understand things. However, I also like to say about the local scene is that our international diplomats have to work overtime right now, and I hope this is one thing I hope the Guyana government got down compact, that we have to be talking with the Americans right now at the highest level. We should try to get the president to meet Rubio or something and show that it is not just talking to their ambassador here or foreign minister and all of that. He might not get an audience with Trump, but he can surely get an audience with Rubio, and let them know that whoever, because Trump announced that America will run Venezuela until such time they could hand over. Right. But because they will do that, Guyana has to start now to have what you call security guarantees from America that they will enforce with whomever, whether it's the opposition, whether it's this lady that was sworn in the other day, the now president,
Rodriguez.
Regardless of who it is, that America will give us the guarantee that they will enforce diplomatically with whomever that Guyana, the position is that we respect the outcome of the ICJ case that's before the court, the international court. And part of what is going on, part of how Trump would have to run America, that must be part of the doctrine, one of the pillars of
Regardless
running.
of Trump run Venezuela.
Yeah, regardless of how we run Venezuela and America to be also. Yeah, but Venezuela I meant, sorry. That that must be one of the guarantees that we get out of whatever it is, so that at least peace and friendship could be. You know that an opposition coming in is not going to be part of any election campaign, that they're going to seize or jump on Guyana, or Guyana is still their own, that this whole thing is in abeyance, it's with the international court, and that is a final settlement. And that has to be reduced as far as possible in writing, a solid agreement, tight. And we gotta work on that day and night, and don't rest. And don't allow Trump and Rubio and others to push that into the back. And here's where diplomacy gotta show up.
This is my speculation. Because of what happened in Venezuela, I don't think Rodriguez, the current president from Maduro party, opposition victory, and the American administration, because of what is involved there, they wouldn't have time to scratch their heads, much as to worry about Guyana. But what I think will come after, in another 4, 5, 6, 7 years, it's going to come years after, is that they are going to adopt a Hugo Chavez approach. Chavez knew that this thing was in the Venezuelan psyche. He knew in the school, children were brought up to think Guyana was part of Venezuela. He knew the military was brought up on that. And what Chavez did was not to discuss it. Chavez could not have renounced the claim. But what Chavez said is that ignoring it is a kind of equivalent to renouncing it. It don't exist, we're not going to talk about it. And one thought that Maduro would have adopted that. Now what I feel, the opposition, if they get into power, or if the current government let the United States run Venezuela, is they are going to do just that. There is never going to be a public exclamation, a public denunciation, a public renunciation that we finish with this border thing. They are going to leave it like that with the psychic knowledge of the Venezuelan people that across there is Venezuelan territory too. I think that is where Maduro made a terrible mistake. But as you rightfully said, and the history book shows it, his popularity was so low that he used that.
But your analogy, your what you've proffered is more or less a Venezuelan view. I am proffering a Guyana view on what Guyana should do. We should not be.
No, you should not be that. You should have a statement.
We should be not just statement. I think we need something solid, a solid commitment from the U.S. that.
We have to force the U.S. to say the Venezuelan claim in Guyana is not on the cards.
So what you are saying would be the normal course of action. Guyana, and I'm saying Guyanese diplomacy has to rise to the level that normal thing of just leaving it be, or diplomacy should rise to the level that should not be.
I think because
that normal course should not be. We should sway the diplomacy so that statements are made, commitments are made. That is what I'm saying.
To my mind, that has to be a Trump-Ali scenario or a Rubio-Ali scenario.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We can't leave that to
right. That's what I'm saying. We can't leave it to ordinary diplomats to. Right. So that is one thing with locally that
the other thing I want to look at is the announcement this morning of 32 Cubans. Now, the thing was being live streamed. Now, here is what I have seen all over the American media and mainstream American media, that the bodyguards and the intelligence officers sold him out. So when the Marines went there was no fight. Now, I would like to know under what circumstances the 32 Cubans died. Now, it's not the Americans said that, it's not the press. Cuban announced that this morning and paying 2 days.
What the Cubans said?
32 of their security personnel and they have assigned 2 days of mourning.
I thought they thing in the I thought they mentioned the circumstance.
No, they did mention the circumstance. Now, what we have to see as the killing of Bin Laden is the live streaming of it. And it was live streamed. Now, if it was live streamed, would the Americans show the firefight outside the safe house, or there was no firefight? I saw American mainstream talk show people saying there was no firefight.
No, that's not true. Trump, an American number is 40. That 40 people were killed in the firefight.
32 got to be Cubans.
And 32 were Cubans. Well, now I'm knowing of the number of Cubans, but they just mentioned Cubans. But my understanding is that the Cubans were the closest guards to Maduro. I am figuring that since America put out that $10 million reward, Maduro trusted his own people less. Because CIA in America, in Venezuela could easily have gotten to Venezuela because things are so bad in Venezuela. $10 million could be an enticement for even the army chief. And I think Maduro did not trust his own security service to be his close men. And I think he asked the Cubans to supply, and upon landing, Maduro then had control over these 32 or how many ever were the people, the amount. Maduro had close personal control, and somebody who he would have implicit trust in would have, so they were not contaminated, so to speak, by the local thing, and those were the people who were closest protector of Maduro. It is not that they were bombed at another military installation.
The firefighter
They
called
were
at the
in
same
the,
house.
yes, there was a firefight. Trump announced it. It came out of his own mouth. Rubio also thing, and it is being discussed a little in the American
Okay,
media.
well, the American media is saying that it was an easy task because of the betrayal. Last night I saw.
But that is that was a supposition. I also saw that on ABC, I think, but it was a supposition. It wasn't a definitive that this is what happened. One person was saying it had to be that he was ranted out, and that he had a mole inside, and so on, and the others are saying it couldn't be. It is the skill of the Delta Force. But if you ask me, my personal view, I believe it's a little of both. I believe somebody with limited information did provide some information, and along with the skill of the American state.
Okay, but let's now talk logistics. If 32 Cuban security members died, how large was the Delta contingent? The Delta contingent had to be large to kill 32 Cubans and not suffer any casualty.
Yeah, but they announced that several soldiers were injured. Right? It could be that they were more better. You remember, you have guards.
They have better gears.
Yeah. You remember, you have guards. Yeah, they're normal, everyday guards. When Maduro went to bed, nobody thought that this is going to happen. Whereas America coming in came with a plan, came protected, and all of that. And they probably came with more sophisticated weapon, night vision, and all of that. So sometimes the Cubans shooting into the darkness. Because remember, the Americans cut the light first, right? That is what, is it Trump or Rubio said that the lights were cut and then they move in. So they move in with real heavy artillery, night vision, and all those kinds of things. So those Cubans were shot in the dark.
32?
Yes.
Without
and I think America suffered some injuries, and they said some of their soldiers were transported to the mainland. They were transported. Medic took care of them on the ship, and then they were transported, and they're hospitalized now. They didn't give a number, but they said several casualties, several injured.
Looking at warfare, modern warfare, I would assume two things happened in the safe house. They had on gas masks, so when they threw the gas bombs, the Cuban military were not prepared for that.
Right.
That one. Secondly, when they threw the gas bombs, they had serious artillery that blew the whole thing. Well, remember that the Cuban person would be destabilized mentally. Their nervous system, the gas. Right. So it could be at that point it was a walkover. Because
that is what I think. They
came with gas masks, they came with heavy artillery.
Yeah.
Good. What you call the thing that you put on your shoulder?
Right. Well, I figure they might not use that, but whatever it is, I think they came prepared. One of the important points not to miss is that they were operating in the dark. They cut the light, and they were operating in the dark, and they came with sophisticated vision equipment so that they can see, and the other side can't see them.
Okay, there's some other logistics to know. If you have a president who does,
that is no match for what America has. Remember, America studying these people all the time. America would have this CIA operative up and down, Caracas, and and in between and infiltrating and all of that. So all of those things are no match for what America. And remember, America were doing two things at the same time. While they were involved in a little firefight in Maduro's compound, they were bombing strategic military things around to confuse. Two things they were doing. They were destabilizing the military and sending a message at the same time. that y'all don't even try. And you hear Trump said they were prepared for a second wave if they tried. But then they realize what's up, and then they decide probably this don't make sense. We're outnumbered, outmoded, outskilled, out-equipped, and everything. So, so for me, it was the fight was just as good as a surrender, like literally. It didn't.
But if 32 Cuban personnel died, it couldn't be a surrender. There had to be a fight. But they were at a serious logistic disadvantage.
Yeah,
I don't think they had an alternative power source. They didn't have arm. Now, even if you cut the light, there is an alternative transmitting system. You have that. So the snipers on the roof, once those places were being bombed, the snipers on the roof should have transmitted to the Cuban bodyguards. It's this basic.
You remember America attack? I can't remember the number of helicopters and fighter jets and what have you. They announced that this is a large number of helicopters.
All right.
From 20 different bases and all of that. I think. Plus, also you gotta remember the dimension that on these grounds we'll have a barrack, right, where soldiers will be asleep. Not all of them gonna be patrolling, but maybe 10 of them were in a barrack, and all you gotta do is put a Lego bomb on the barrack, and all 10 gone, and you just got 20 more to you know. So the situation, needless to.
I want to believe that even though the lights were cut, I don't know what they bombed certain installations before they attacked the safe house. Where were the transmitting set, even if the lights and electricity are cut? Where were the transmitting set to the Cuban bodyguards?
They were no good, Fred. No good. Compared to what America.
But Cuba, after so long in power, facing imperialist destabilization over 50 years, did not look. It is an established fact that Iran damaged Israel during the second bombing. Remember, Israel attacked one time, Iran replied, and the second time, military installations that penetrated the dome. Israel got a thing called the dome. When you are facing that kind of destabilization from huge military powers, the way Iran is, the way North Korea is from Japan and South Korea, your thing has to be ultra modern. I can't see the Americans going to a safe house where the Iranian president is without him having to encounter equally sophisticated equipment. As you said, they just were no good.
Yeah, that's what I believe. They were no good. I think Maduro employing the Cubans to be his closest security. I don't think he dreamed that they would have to do a firefight with Americans. I think they were prepared more for internal, right. And so an American thing by air, sea, and land, was certainly overwhelming to them, right? So I think that is, what caught Maduro off guard.
Okay, let's look at the proclamation that Venezuela, the United States will run Venezuela. That could only take place in 2 ways. Not 3, not 4, there are only 2 modes. One is a rentier, or what you would call it, a puppet, or a sycophantic.
I think that is more like...
And this government is in charge of Venezuela and following policies that the Americans do. The Americans say, denationalize the oil fields, bring back Exxon, okay, have a Israeli military contingent to protect the Exxon oil field, etc. That is the only way to have it. The other way is boots on the ground. if it's boots on the ground, you're going to have American casualties. I don't see how that can happen.
America mode in something like that where oil and oil fields are concerned, their normal go-to thing is to use private military contractors. Yeah. Where they had former military people, they have a private company that could provide these people, and that is what they do. So I don't expect American military people in uniform parading the streets. You might have a few senior military officers at some location somewhere, maybe a place in the embassy or something like that. But boots on the ground, I don't see. Excuse me, I don't see that. And what I see is more, as you said, a puppet president to come, who would have to facilitate America, and I don't think Trump has too much interest in Venezuela beyond oil. I heard Trump mention he tried to rename Monroe Doctrine. I think
Donald Doctrine.
Donald Monroe.
Donald,
right, Donroe, but it's a combination of Donald and right. And in other words, he is adopting that, and what that means is that America is going to have a no-nonsense approach with respect to any government that wants to step out the line when it comes to American foreign policy. So if America barks and say, here, look, tone down Chinese involvement in this, that, and that, you're a country that is in the Western Hemisphere, you listen, plain and simple. And that is essentially what the Monroe Doctrine, a former president, for those who don't know, former president of the U.S., whose last name is Monroe, and he came up with a doctrine of American dominance in the Americas, right? Which include,
he said that's America's sphere of influence.
Yes,
and no one must,
from Greenland all the way to the island of Chile area there. So basically, that is done, I believe. So to move this discussion further, Trump, I believe, when it comes to his local legitimacy, and if the Democrats who are expecting to have a blue wave and to win the midterm, if they are not vigilant politically, this same invasion of Venezuela can cause Trump to revive the Republican Party and win the midterm. And let me explain how. Though Trump's immigration policy is unpopular, it's really only unpopular among Democrats. It's not unpopular among Republicans and the MAGA crowd. So Donald Trump and the Republicans will not suffer any electoral misfortune with respect to immigration. They will not suffer any misfortune with respect to environment. They are denying climate change and all of that. The only misfortune they can suffer, the greatest misfortune they can suffer, is economic policies. Is what people feel, and Trump like to use the term groceries as if it's a new term. And that is Trump's biggest Achilles heel. What American can afford to put on their table. And the only or the quickest solution to reducing economic burden on America is oil. That's the quickest solution. And if Trump, this is a deflection from the economics, and Trump can raise 2 or 3 other deflection between now and midterm, and then Trump can get the oil flowing. Now, America has billions of barrels of oil in reserve. They make these big tankers, put them on the ground, and they have oil stored in America, billions of barrels of oil. expecting Exxon to go back and reclaim their position. Remember Rex Tillerson was the head of
and he became Secretary of State.
and he was the head of Exxon when
Then he
Maduro,
became Secretary of State.
when Maduro took the assets from Exxon. Now, Exxon will go back and reclaim their whatever they lost. They tried to get paid for it, but in the meantime, Trump can start pumping oil out of American ground, to relieve some of the economic pressure, and prices will either stabilize or start to go down. And so when the Democrats are concentrating on all these things that Trump is going to do, Maduro is going to be one, then Trump is going to come with something else tomorrow, they're going to try something, and when you focus, which a lot of the American people don't really care about, and by the time they catch themselves, jobs are going to go up, things are going to stabilize and all of that, and then into the midterm, the Democrats could lose it. So part of this Maduro thing and concentration, and you look at Trump's press conference and any of his telephone interviews after that, all Trump talking about is oil and oil and oil and oil, because I think they're on to something. I think they realize that pumping out some of the oil could relieve the economic pressure, and in time for the midterms. And Trump did not lose popularity in any of the other areas other than that. And if that stabilizes, the Democrats have nothing. And if they don't know how to handle all of this, they could end up losing the midterm. And I think that is the big Trump card, so to speak. And there is a pun on the word Trump is intended.
I think there are loopholes in that argument. There are trends when a president is elected and he goes into his first days. There are trends. Now, it's unthinkable, incredible, beyond imagination that in an age of Trump, a man who says, I am a socialist, and I think Israel needs to be curtailed, and Israel is a Zionist adventure in the world. That man beat mainstream politicians and won the heartland of the United States. United States is New York, New York is United States. Everything about, forget about Chicago and, well, Los Angeles. But California and New York are the United States. There is no importance of Wyoming, West Virginia. And a man who criticized Israel in real vitriolic terms won New York mayorship. Miami is as reactionary. The population of Florida is as reactionary as the Republican Party. And a Democrat, after 30-something years, won the mayorship of Miami. I think you're misreading the pulse of Trumpism in the United States. Trumpism was based on one fundamental construct: make America great again. There are jobs being lost in Ohio to China. Why should we have Montenegro in Europe? Why should the United States pay for Montenegro being a part of NATO and the United States funding? What interest the United States have in Montenegro? Vance, the Vice President of the United States, was very, very anti-Ukraine when the war came. The Republic primary for presidency had contenders like this guy, this Indian guy, Vivek what? Who called Zelensky a comedian in three-piece suit. And they were anti-Ukraine. Now, what Trumpism did, he soaked into the minds of America that we have fallen down and we must be great again, and we pay no money to support Europe, etc. And what the American Trumpist sections of society saw is that when he came into power, MAGA went into crazy directions. And two of the most arch-conservative MAGA supporters, Liz Cheney, began to work with Trump. But it's Marjorie Greene. Marjorie Greene was pro-Trump as any Trumpist you can find in the United States. And people are saying, you betrayed us. We got people starving in the streets. We got China taking away our jobs. And you gone. Just a month ago, 3 Democrats won governorship in New Jersey and elsewhere. And I think what is going to happen as the midterm comes is people are going to realize that what is this man saying? He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's doing. Where is MAGA in the Trump administration? There are already people who feel that what he going in Venezuela for? And we're supposed to make United States great again. And it's because he said, make United States great again. What that statement did, it eroded Republican support for Ukraine. Republican Party is not pro-Ukraine. So that is going to affect Trump in the midterm. But the other thing is, you cannot concentrate your immigration policy so conspicuously, so barefacedly against one ethnic group and not hope that wouldn't dent your election campaign. The beginning of Florida turning against Trump was that victory of a Democratic mayor in Miami. And the people that have been suffering from Trump's immigration policies are non-white people, particularly Hispanics and Latin. And in his first term and his second term, he carried substantial votes from those constituencies. The question is, could the MAGA core, the core of right-wing racist United States, could they carry a victory in the midterm? They are going to lose substantial amount of Hispanic votes.
I am saying, if all things be equal as they are now, of course, that is the trajectory of what. But I am saying that the Republicans are on to something if they use the Venezuela issue the right way, and if they have a few more distractions and keep the Democrats engaged in other things, and they move away from paying attention to what is happening quietly in the back, an improvement in the economics of America. And I'm saying under those circumstances, you are speaking from a democratic perspective.
No, I'm speaking as an academic analyst of what's going on
in the US. Your perspective...
And I'm looking at the trends. Mandami's victory is not an isolated thing.
Mandami's victory is who Mandami is running against. His strongest contender was this guy who became very, 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 very unpopular a long time ago.
No, man, there were governorships that were won, 3 governorships that were won last
but
month.
that is what I'm saying.
They were running against
what is happening now. I'm talking about what's happening in Venezuela can turn the tide. I'm not saying the tide isn't going against Republicans, and if it continues, Republicans will be overwhelmed. But I'm saying this is an opportunity to turn the tide, and if the Democrats are not vigilant, all right, and if the Democrats are less vigilant or are allowed to move their field of view to so many other things, they can lose the view of some of the main things that people care about.
I think the big hole in your argument is that do not see they've been serious at an accelerating rate decrease of support for Trump in the entirety of the United States.
That happened at the last election when Biden won. At the end of Trump's last term, he became very, very unpopular, but then he became popular again.
No, I think
to other things that happened.
No, I think Trump lost that Trump won that election.
2024 you're talking about.
Yeah, he lost that. After Obama, white folks in the United States didn't want to give a black person a chance again. They said we give Obama. And Harris was a non-starter. Harris was absolutely a non-starter. Secondly, Biden was so, I want to use the right word, not unpopular. Biden appeared to the American people in such a macabre way that people said, look, they blamed the Democratic Party. This man was like semi-mad, or mad is not the word, semi-senile. And they were still going with him. And when they conceded to the United States that he was semi-senile, they put a very lackluster black person. I believe things would have worked out differently if from the time the Democrats found out that this guy, Biden, is semi-senile, and they had put like the governor of California, it would have been a different. Trump won that election because he didn't have opposition. He didn't have opposition.
I understand your point of view, but I am going to remind you of some of this discussion when the US election comes around.
I think he's going to last the
if
midterm.
Everything goes as it is today and they don't take advantage of the what can flow from the economy. Remember, Trump already got a lot of things set up so that this oil could benefit America economically and
that's not going to come in time for the midterm election.
Hold on, let me explain to you. You know something that is called an EV mandate. You remember Trump passed something called a big, beautiful bill that the Democrats call a big, ugly bill. Inside it has something that reduces something they call a EV mandate, electric vehicle mandate, that they had a target for 2030 that Musk was highly invested in, and that is why he was so annoyed at Donald Trump for enforcing that bill. Secondly, Trump dismantled all those environmental targets and all of those things, which means then he set up America for an oil glut. And it is part of why he moved into Venezuela to secure oil. So what Trump can start doing immediately from tomorrow morning as we speak here, start pumping from the reserve, because he knows now that you have control of Venezuela, you can replenish that reserve. And he could pump up millions of barrels of oil into the American economy to relieve some of the pressure. And
you were saying oil prices is going to suddenly elevate
this is
economy.
oil on American soil, yes.
But I think the economy is more complicated than that. But the operator said 10 minutes left. Well, when you signaled that was 2 minutes ago. What we need to end this program with is the international order. I think what Trump is doing has made it necessary to have countervailing superpowers in the world. And I think now that this has happened, people have to say, thank God there's a China and thank God there's a Russia. Because if there was a China, a Russia, or a India, or a Iran, the United States could control the world. But the other consequences of Trump's action is, why should China and Russia be afraid to do what Trump has done? The Chinese, we talk about the psyche of the American people. We talk about the psyche of the Venezuelan people. There's a psyche of the Chinese that Taiwan belongs to China. And if Trump could do what he did in Venezuela, why should the Chinese not do that in Taiwan?
Okay.
And why shouldn't the Americans, why should the Russians not say, we have millions and millions of Russians in Ukraine. Ukraine is a threat to Russian existence. Why should we not go there and just devastate the place?
There are a couple of things about that. One, Taiwan is not such a sitting duck to China as Venezuela is to America. That's the first thing. America from Congress already have a mandate to defend Taiwan anytime they're being attacked. That a president don't need to go back to Congress for approval for that. That is a standing policy of the US. And so China would have to think twice to invade Taiwan. But I hear you on that, but it is totally different. I wouldn't say apples and oranges, but apples and something else resembling apple.
Tangerine.
Or orange and tangerine, right, maybe. Right? But it's not the same. And what America under Trump, maybe your position that you're taking, probably under a leader like Biden or under a leader like Obama, that goes straight American legal, the standard straight-jacket president who try to do things the right way and who try to listen to people who got the voice of reason and all of that. Trump comes across as a person who don't listen and wants to do it, and the unpredictability of Trump means, at least in Trump's era, that none of that.
I want to stop you there, and I think you've gone back 60 years of subliminal propaganda that was effective in the world 60 years ago. Do you really think United States could counter China in Taiwan, which is a couple of miles away from China? Do you think China would just sit down and allow those submarines from wherever they are just to travel safely and go?
No, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that China would have their hand full in Taiwan. It's not a walkover as US versus Venezuela. Taiwan also has a very large army. Taiwan also have fighter jets.
More than Venezuela?
Yes.
Venezuela is 33 million people.
Man.
No, man, Taiwan doesn't have that. Taiwan military and its armed forces.
Freddie, when you leave here, go and read up on Taiwan. I will. On Taiwan equipment. US has been giving artillery to Taiwan for ages. Taiwan has an air defense system and all those kinds of things. It's not going to be a walkover.
I know it's not going to be a walkover like Venezuela because of the air defense system and what have you. But we got to go. What has this done for the psychology of Putin? In other words, could you now hold back Putin when Putin say, listen, I'm protecting Mother Russia from these fascists who supported Hitler in World War II. I'm protecting my country from Ukraine that the West wants to use to demolish Russia. And
I don't think Russia could safely go beyond what they're doing now. Just bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb Ukraine and continue to bomb. But if they go the way America went to go in and try to seize leaders and all of that, I think it will trigger a response both from America and Europe. So
in other words, poor Venezuela was alone.
Yeah, I believe so. I I hear people who talk about what message it is sending and all of that, but I don't think it moves the needle, seriously moves the needle. I don't think so at all.
But could it not be? The reason being is that if Maduro was more popular and had won a landslide, don't you think he would have been more protected by royal opinion? I mean, he made himself a fool by wanting to invade Guyana.
That is Maduro's problem, is that he did not make international friends. The friends he made are people who don't usually defend anybody. Cuba is a very friendly nation, but
It ain't got the manpower,
right,
military
and they
manpower.
don't exactly defend. Russia got its hand full with Ukraine, and China
China
don't
would not.
defend anybody. And those are the people he befriended. He didn't and he befriended North Korea. And he didn't befriend people in the normal Western world. He didn't befriend. He's even at
But what
war
the-
with Colombia.
Yeah, but what
and
the-
then the other day, he sent military people close to the border of Brazil, and Brazil had to tell him, don't even try it again. And so if he there rubbing all
I
these
think
people,
he made himself vulnerable.
Yeah.
We've got to close off on that. This was a discussion that we believe all our viewers would have been interested in. Everybody's talking about the United States action in Venezuela. So thanks for being with us. We will see you on Wednesday. The show must go on. Hopefully we should have a guest on Wednesday. Thanks for being with us on behalf of Leonard Clegg and our operators. Have a very pleasant Monday evening and Tuesday and Wednesday before we see you again. Catch you